Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you with Joker number 3. Now, what I'm appreciating about this series thus far, other than it being a great story, is a lot of modern books. I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but it's becoming a trend where around issues 3 to 5, the book starts pittering out, and that's why you see a lot of books start to cancel around issue 13, sometimes 20, sometimes 5 or 6. And I don't know if it's just because people just don't care, they don't have the creative energy, but you can see that James Tynion is really kicking ass when it comes to Batman, doing a great job both in the main title and this spinoff. So, to put some things into context, well, before that, let's go ahead and talk about this part because this was awesome. They say Chapter 7, One Bad Day. And Gordon's talking about when he was tortured and abused at Amusement Mile when the Joker was trying to drive him insane. He goes, I could feel the leather of the collar digging into my neck. I can feel the cold night air on my naked body. I can smell the sweat off the circus sideshow act, shrugged up in a frenzy, dragging me toward his throne. I remember the panic rising in my chest as I tried to grapple with what was happening around me. I asked, delirious, what I was doing there. And then the voice of the devil responded, doing? You're doing what any sane man in your appalling circumstances would do. You're going mad. And so this all is an homage to Alan Moore's The Killing Joke. Brian Bolin, I believe, was the artist on that book. And just seeing the creative team here try to recreate that moment of The Killing Joke, very nicely done, but definitely not the original with the pulp feeling of that time period. So speaking of the Joker, this is James Tynion writer, Guillem March artist, Arif Prianto doing the colors, Tom Napolitano doing the lettering. Batman was created by Bill Finger with Bob Kane. So the overall premises I was just talking about a minute ago is Jim Gordon has finally had enough of the Joker. What kicked this story off is there was some sort of leak. I think it was like a gas leak or something, an explosion that killed the majority of the inmates at Arkham. So Jim, after dealing with everything from, the Year of the Villain and all that jazz where he kind of became part of the Sinister Six, he's ready to put the Joker down for good. He's had to kind of lie to Batman about it. He has a unanimous backer that's going to fund him because she wants him to kill the Joker, so she's hiring his services. And that's just kind of everything that's happened thus far in the book. Here's where spoilers start to tie in. It's shown through this book, I believe it was last issue, that James Gordon knows that his daughter is Batgirl, leading that this Jim Gordon is no fool and he knows more than he's letting on. And this read here is there's a lot of nods to Frank Miller's Year One, talking about how when the Joker was on the rise, they kind of let him go because they thought he was psychotic because they were focused on taking down organized crime. And Gordon says, I used to get angry when Batman would prioritize the criminals with gimmicks over the ones I thought were a real danger to the city. But time would change that. And after that night, meaning The Killing Joke, it was never the same. The Joker had an agenda that night. He wanted to prove to Batman that one bad day can turn even the most sane person in Gotham insane. And in a way, he failed. And I just love the imagery here in his mind, the scene when he was caged at the hands of the Joker. Him as a much older man, And again, this has been a reoccurring theme where everywhere he goes, in time I would show my daughter and both Batman that I would be okay. I would be the rock that they needed me to be. But forever after that night, when I closed my eyes, I could see him waiting for me. And I could hear him laughing. And just look at the way he towers over Jim in his mind. And this is what's leading Gordon down the path that he's going. He's met this benefactor named Chrisinda, I believe is her name. Now here's another spoiler. She wants Gordon to kill the Joker. Right now the Joker's out in hiding because it's established in this book that after all the big things that Joker pulls in Gotham, he disappears and he's kind of what they call his inactive time. So Christina says, I know where he's at, and we know what he's done to you and your family. We want to pay you millions of dollars to hunt him down and kill him. And you keep thinking, what's the catch? Because Gordon here, he knows it's too good to be true. He talks to Batman about it to buy kind of his insurance, access to the Bat computer, and then that's where he lied about really contemplating killing the Joker. Barbara's the only one that can kind of pick up on it, so we're yet to see what happens with that. But Cressida, at the last issue, at the very end, you come to find out that she works for the Court of the Owls. So there's nothing much else has really been said about her, but it's interesting. She's very much an enigma at this point. She keeps saying all the right things Gordon wants to hear. And, even Jim says, because this card that she's given him, it's no limit credit card. He goes, what if I took out the full $25 million and just treated myself to a nice vacation? I don't know, Mr. Gordon. What if you did? You're a good man. We trust you to do the job you're being hired to do. But I do hope that you treat yourself a little. So I think in a way Gordon kind of wants to get out of Gotham. So I think there's a lot of factors that drew him to this job. He needs to get away. He has the man that he wants dead in his sights. So, I don't know. I really like to see where Gordon's intentions are going, and that's what keeps bringing me back to this book. But I do love how, as the plane gets to go off, he now has Oracle, Barbara, in the seat, and it's, he says, "Wheels up. Love you, kid. Keep an eye on me." And then we have Spoiler and Cassandra, who, at this point, are they calling her Batgirl yet, or are they calling her Orphan? They're still calling her Cass, which I hate to say it, but I think this page here, I'm wondering if they kind of spoiled it to show that they're bringing Cassandra back as Batgirl. Because Barbara mentioned in the last issue that the implant that's in her back is starting to fail, and she's afraid of going out as Batgirl, so she's been taking up her role more serious as Oracle, which to me would be a cool idea, because then you would have Barbara, the Spoiler, Cassandra, I think it's Cassandra Cain, I always forget her last name, let me know if I'm wrong. And it'd be neat to get a good writer and a great art team and do another, what was that series called? Birds of Prey. That would be excellent. And then to bring back Huntress and Black Canary, we'd be good to go. So you're thinking, this is going to be awesome. We got a lot of the original, Birds of Prey watching over Gordon. We're hoping that the Joker's going to die. And then just Barbara just being Barbara. She goes, okay, now let's see who you really are, Cressida. I've always loved Babs as in the the part of the Oracle, the all-seeing Oracle. That's why when you play the Arkham City games, it's just nice to hear her. And then she had a bigger role in the last game, which I wish she would have in the other. But anyway, I digress. Now we come into what's called Chapter 8, Gut Work. And here I like that Tynion really gets into the mind of Gordon. He goes, you find shortcuts and streamline your process. You begin to sort information differently. He said, it started for me back in homicide. You start to see the different ways people kill and die, and you can start grouping them together. There's a wrong way to do it, a lazy way. And so Gordon talks about how there's a case where one of his buddies just wanted to rush the case even though the person that he fingered was wrong, and Gordon went back and fixed it because he started putting the pieces together a way a detective should do it. Every murder is typically a statement. It sends a message. It says, I hate women, I hate myself, I'm scared, or I want people to notice me. You spend enough time doing this job and you start to get the feel of what's being said in a crime scene. And you start to get a gut feeling of the sort of person who's saying it. And then there's exceptions to the rule. And so he talks about how Joker is the exception. He's kind of this mad dog. And they use all these very graphic pictures to kind of help talk about what he, kind of enforce what he's talking about. And that's to me was probably the best part of the book, really getting into the mind of how Gordon works as a detective. Now this character, I call her Lady Bane. I cannot remember what her name is off the top of my head. And she's been teased throughout this series, and it's kind of like, okay, you're teasing us with her, let's move on. So from what I understand, Bane died when Arkham was exploded, or it was the gas leak, I can't remember what it was. So they made her last issue. And she just has not done anything yet. So I just kind of like, what are we doing here? So that's probably my only thing that's kind of chapping my butt right now. But I'm interested to see what she's going to be doing here. And now again, we get back into the mind of Gordon. And he says, I kind of just picture Joker sitting vacant, not smiling, his eyes dead, just resting and waiting until whatever clicks over in his brain and he decides to blow up a circus. And he's talking about how he imagines Joker in his downtime. He goes, so that's where my first gut feeling about the case comes into play. He's talking about the resorts that we saw last issue that Joker hides out at, and he talked about how the Joker more than likely pushes the limits of what he can do at these resorts and how they can cover him, and everyone's afraid of him. And he goes, going to these resorts, all the rich and powerful are going to be tight-lipped because they are so well connected. He goes, and then there's my second gut feeling about the case, which isn't about him, about the world he's traveling in. And he goes, when the wealthy and powerful are covering their checks, they're usually covering their checks from the wealthy and powerful. Everyone else is more or less invisible to him, even if those people change their sheets and pour their drinks every day. So you see Gordon starting to get chummy with the help, because he says that the help, get a few drinks in them. He says, but service people talk, and they talk even more freely when you've just bought them a few expensive bottles of liquor and you're letting them make fun of your elementary school level Spanish. And that's what leads Gordon to the Joker. And there is a twist about what happened at Gotham. And so I think this next issue, there's going to be this unwilling alliance. I don't know. I can't wait to read issue 4, but this book has just been damn good. And you'd think with all that reading that we went through, it's interesting because it means something and it's taking you somewhere, it's advancing the plot. It's just not being silly or just blawing away for the sake of blawing away. And in the moments where there's no dialogue needed, it helps enforce the punch of what you're seeing. Now, the only thing about this book that's killing me is we have this backup story about Punchline. It's Sam Johns and Tynion writing, Mark Adolfo doing the art, Ariana Maher doing the letters, Romualdo Fajardo doing the colors. But it's just, after you get the awesome artwork of Guillem March, just seeing this, to me, is so damn flat. The only upside is to seeing how Punchline tries to take on Orca, but I feel like with a better artist, this would be a lot more intensified. But just, again, that's to me just flat. The colors just look very generic. But the plot itself is interesting. I like Bluebird as a character. I wish he was more utilized. And that's one thing about these. A lot of the new characters, like Tynion is utilizing them. He did a great job of utilizing and making us fall in love with Punchline. But I remember back when Snyder introduced Bluebird, she was kind of interesting. I wanted to know more about her. And then she just fell off the face of the earth. Same with Duke. It took all this time in the 0 year to get to know him. And he just kind of into the wind until Hitch picked up the Outsiders series, which if you have not read that, frickin' phenomenal. Duke, Cassandra Cain, Black Lightning, Katana, just fabulous book. So again, I don't understand why, if you're going to create a new character, do something with it, make it interesting. So I'm glad that Tynion and Sam Johns, did I say, are trying to revitalize Bluebird, but just the artwork, after seeing stuff like this, you're thinking, my God, that's gorgeous. Then getting that, it just doesn't cut the mustard, in my personal opinion. I'm not saying it's horrible, but the tone change is just way too drastic in this book. But nonetheless, the story, interesting, so I'll give it a pass on that. Definitely a high recommend. And that's why I'm so pissed that Tynion is leaving Batman. I understand why. If you guys haven't heard about it, go look up videos on YouTube and you'll understand. Makes sense, but it's just like, damn, where's that going to leave us who are just loving what he's doing with the Bat brand right now? So if you've enjoyed this book, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you can possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Joker bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love hearing your feedback and talking with y'all down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, I hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.